Hello friends, we are here to discuss the upcoming HDFC Manufacturing Fund. To discuss this fund with us, we have here Mr. Rakesh Sethia, who will be fund manager for this fund. Hi Rakesh.
Thanks,
First things off, why do you think India needs to focus on manufacturing in its Amrit Kal?
Three factors. First is the holistic and inclusive growth. Second, large-scale employment generation. And finally, macroeconomic stability. All these factors are intertwined with each other. So firstly, on the holistic growth, if you look at the countries which have had strong economic growth in recent times, one thing stands out is their high growth period was highly correlated with the increasing share of GDP. Take case of example for China and Vietnam. When we look at India, India's share is today at about 15%. This is expected to increase to 20%.
Understood. And what are some other reasons why we need to focus on manufacturing?
Second is the large-scale employment generation. If you look at our country, 45% of our people are employed in farm, and we need to move some of these people from farm to factories because this is important from a macroeconomic stability point of view. If you look at manufacturing, it adds 4 times more value versus agriculture, which means that we can move these people from farm to factories and generate a lot of economic value. China in recent times have done that. In 1990, about 25% of China's population was in farming. That number now stands at less than 10%. And during these years, China have moved from $300 GDP per capita to $12,000 GDP per capita. And finally, macroeconomic stability. Our economy has grown. Our net consumption is increasing above nominal GDP growth. And if you look at our imports that have been increasing beyond 10%, what it does is, it creates, it exposes us to geopolitical instability. What we have seen, for example, in 2013. When you look at China and Vietnam, in the last decade, they have had lower inflation. They have had lower currency depreciation, and one of the reasons is they have a large current account balance thanks to their manufacturing GDP.
Sure. So this puts across the need for manufacturing in the Amrit Kal quite well. If I may ask another question, India has had a need for manufacturing for a very long time. But why now? Why does manufacturing as a theme make sense right now?
Actually, it's a confluence of multiple factors. And if I were to sort of break down, in summary, we have an opportunity, we have now the capability, and finally the business environment is very, very good for the sector. From an opportunity point of view, our consumption have increased materially over the last decade or so. In many of the consumption items, we are now world's either largest or among the top 3 market of the world. What it has done is it has given us a scale to start manufacture for our own consumption. Second is the global realignment of supply chain. We call it China +1, but it's actually beyond that. Many geographies are looking for more stability in their supply chain. So export have become an interesting opportunity for us, and because of the scale, now we can do that. On capability side, if you look at the India's population today, we're going to be the largest supplier of the labor pool in the entire world. In 1990s, you could have moved to either China or India or to Eastern Europe. But when you look at now, for the next 30 years, India is practically the only supplier of the labor pool to the world. So in that sense, that we have the capability to deploy that labor pool at a cost-effective supply pool. Not only that, now the cost of the labor in India is now only 20% of China. Other way around, China is now 5 times more expensive. That also has given us, puts in a very favorable position. And finally, when you look at the business environment, the kind of policy push what we see from the government, it was not there in earlier times. One could argue it is much more now related to other times. That is reflected in higher spending on infra. Our logistic costs have declined materially. And finally, even the companies, when you look at their balance sheet, they are probably at one of the healthiest one could ever see. Banking system is virtually free of any NPA. And our capacity utilization is also at the peak. This allows the companies to invest for growth without facing any capital constraint.
Understood. So now we have established a need why manufacturing is required in the country. We now sort of have a sense of why it makes sense now. In such a scenario, when we are in the midst of our NFO or are about to proceed with it, what would you communicate to investors in terms of the portfolio strategy of the fund once it's once it's active?
It will be a diversified portfolio in the sense that, and it will be a it's quite flexible in the market cap approach. When you look at the benchmark, just to give the context, roughly half of the benchmark is large cap and the other half is in mid and small cap. And the universe, as we look at today, even if I take let's say cutoff of 1,000 crores as a market cap, there are roughly about 700 odd companies that qualifies. So one could build a diversified portfolio which is flexible across market cap.
Right. So across sectors, you have a lot of different sectors, with none of which are very large within the universe.
Yes, that's correct. So if you look at even the largest sector, that would have about 17% weight just from the benchmark perspective, and top three sectors would be roughly about 48%, 49% sort of a weight. It's a very well diversified theme that allows for doing a bottom-up stock picking.
So Rakesh, finally, if I may ask, why should one consider investing in this fund? What are the few key points?
If you look at our GDP, it is expected to double from 3.4 trillion to 7 trillion by FY 2030. During the same time, manufacturing is expected to triple. So it should be delivering much higher growth compared to our GDP. Secondly, this theme allows you to take exposure to multiple themes. There is a theme of increasing consumption in our country. There is a theme of increasing capex and investment in our country. And finally, there is theme of increasing exports from our country. It allows you to take exposure to all those three themes in just one fund perspective.
So Rakesh, in terms of the portfolio construction and in terms of the end product that we might end up having, which are the kind of investors for whom this product would be suitable for?
If you look at this fund, it has only 40% overlap with the benchmark. It does not have financial services. It does not include IT services. So anybody who wants to take exposure to manufacturing, it's an ideal fit for them. Anybody who wants to have a long-term buy and hold strategy, it's a good fit for them. And anybody who this is a multi-decade theme. It is a good product to do even an SIP from a long-term perspective.
Thank you for watching us today. I hope this interaction was useful, and happy investing.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.